So I got this letter from a 75-year-old man who wants to get into RVing, and for some reason he's wanted to do so for the past 5 years, and for some reason his wife doesn't want to. His name is Michael Blackburn, and he says, I've been trying to get my wife to RV for 5 years. Any helpful hints to convince her to RV with me? I'm 75 years old, retired, and I feel like my life is passing me by. Hey there, I'm Dr. Dave, the RV Dummy. Let's get into this right now. By the way, if you have not subscribed yet, or well, give me a like, and if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? This is the best RV channel ever. Let's get right into answering Mr. Blackburn's question. To many people, age 75 would sound like really old, but it's really not. I'll give you just a real quick example. When I remember back at the time when I was really young, turning 30, I was starting to get depressed that my life was passing me by and I was old and pretty much over the hill. And a good friend of mine said, Dave, just think about this. When you're 50 or 55, you're going to look back and say that 30 was like super young. And for sure, that advice was some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my life, and it's absolutely true. Michael, I don't know much about you. You were kind enough to write in, but I don't know you personally. And there are many types of 75-year-olds. If you're 75 and in relatively good health and financially stable, and this is something, it's like a dream of yours you really want to do, then you've got plenty of years to RV. You should not put this off. I mean, when I say you got plenty of years, you can't wait till you're 85 to do this. If you're going to do this, you need to start it now. As far as your wife not wanting, I mean, okay, let me just back up for a second. I've got friends that are 70 to 75 that ski with me all winter long, that are like, you can do a lot of stuff. They're in great shape. So 75 is not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not old, it's not over the hill, and you've got a lot of productive years left if you're healthy. But let's get back into your wife thing. Your wife seems to have no interest, but from what I've learned in my life, a marriage is a lot of love and a lot of give and take. And I'm going to use my wife as an example. My wife Yoko, many of you have met her. She's been on the channel quite a bit. When I got into RVing, when I wanted to get into RVing about 3-4 years ago or so, something like that, Yoko probably didn't even know what an RV was at that time. But instead of her saying, no, I'm not interested, we're husband and wife, and we both share interests, even if it's something that the other person might be more interested in and really wants to do. So in other words, if she would have said no, that would have been really tough and probably not even fair. She embraced it. She said, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. And I'll tell you, these days, she's probably much more passionate about, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm very passionate about RVing. I love it. We've got a really nice Class B. But she's the one that is so proactive and makes all the plans and marks dates off on the calendar that we're going to go here and there. So she really has gotten into it. So Michael, I would sit down and have a talk with your wife. I'm assuming the two of you you're 75 years old. I mean, I'm assuming the two of you have a good relationship, and there's a lot of give and take there. And hopefully you've done things for her, maybe something that she's interested in that maybe you wouldn't have been all that interested in, but since you are a couple, you took interest because it meant so much to your wife. And I hope it can go the other way as well. I think she'll probably, and again, assuming she's in good health, I think she would have a great time RVing with you. I mean, now is the time to do it. So this is my official answer. You've got to speak with her, play her this video if you like, but I feel bad that you say that you feel you're retired and you feel that life is passing you by. You should not feel like that. You should not feel like that at age 75. You should not feel like that at age 30. You should not feel like that at age 85 or 90. You should be fulfilled and live your life the way you want to live your life. And if that's a dream of yours to get out and buy an RV and see what it's all about and experience it, then you should definitely do it. Please have that talk with your wife. I've got another question before we get into that. It's a really good one too. It's a great one. Before we get into that, a quick word from a very good friend of mine.
Hey there, darlings. It's Matilda La Mishpacha. of the Mishpacha Family Campground, and I want to thank Dr. Dave so much for giving me this time just to talk about for one quick second. We have the world's quietest RV campground, and I did a little video a short time ago about it. If you like peace and quiet, La Mishpacha Family Campground is the place to go. We just have a brand new rule we instituted the other day, and I think you're gonna really like this, to keep things super, super quiet. We are not allowing anybody to pull into the campground and check in after 4 p.m. because a lot of our guests like to go to sleep somewhere in the 4 to 5 p.m. range. And you know, when these big rigs pull in and they've got to start setting up camp and they're noisy, and we don't allow anybody to come in after 4 p.m. Now, we think that's going to help with a lot of peace and quiet in the campground, because the last thing you want is to try to go to sleep at 5 p.m. and some schmuck comes in next to you in one of those big rigs. And I've experienced this a lot back in my camping days, and they just I don't know whether they keep the motor going or the generator going or whatever, but it's loud while they're setting up, and it's just inconsiderate. So we're making sure that we keep the rules going very strictly at our campground to keep us as the #1 most peaceful and quiet campground in the world. By the way, Dr. Dave said, if you have any questions for me at any time, I'm happy to do a Q&A. Being a campground owner and an RVer, I've seen it all. I know a lot. I might not be as smart as the RV dummy, but I think I can help you out quite a bit. And I think Dr. Dave's going to probably give me a little more time in the near future. But until next time, just remember, I am Matilda Limeshbacha, owner of the Mishpacha Family Campground. And by the way, we are on the World Wide Web of RV campgrounds, so check us out there. Thanks, Dr. Dave.
Okay, back to the next question here. It's from John David, and like I said, it's a great one, because I have always talked about only buying an RV that you can afford and paying cash. In my opinion, taking out a loan for an asset that is a depreciating asset is just, it's a lose-lose, because there's so many reasons not to do it. But his question is actually quite good. John David says, is your opinion that if you have 0% interest, if you can get 0% interest on a loan, why not do it? He says, we have bought and only buy our automobiles when they offer 0% for 60 months. Why doesn't that make sense? It lets you pay the same amount over time, doesn't it? And then he says, great channel. Well, thanks. I really appreciate that, John. And it's a great question. I'm going to explain my rationale on this. So first of all, let's assume that you do agree with my philosophy that you should only buy an RV that you can afford. Let's assume that's an agreement there. By the way, I'm going to be talking a lot about this stuff in my upcoming book. It's supposed to be coming out in May of this year, which I'm recording this 2021, May of 2021. It's called How to Become the Neighborhood Millionaire. And my goal, I think this is going to be like the best, simplest, easiest to understand and easiest to put into action personal financial book ever printed. I truly believe that, because I've got principles that I've lived by for decades have helped me create the life that I'm living now. And I can teach this to anybody, and it's a lot simpler than you would ever dream. So John, let's assume that you're only going to buy an RV that you can afford. And that means an RV that you can afford to pay cash for. That doesn't mean an RV that you can string out payments for 5 years and then hopefully be able to make those payments. So if that's an assumption, if you agree with me there, I feel there's no advantage and only a disadvantage to paying this off over 60 months. The reason is this. If you buy it for cash outright, you're done. Finished. End of story, you own it. If you take the loan out, even though it's 0% interest, that means you're going to have that money anyway somewhere, and you're going to have to park it in a very safe place, such as a savings account, or I don't know, maybe CD, or somewhere it's totally liquid, and somewhere where you can access the money every month to make the payment, which means you're not going to be able to get any kind of return on that. So you're not making money on that money. It's just sitting there, like basically under the mattress Why not just pay it off right up front and get it over with? Secondly, if something happens and this is not paid off and you've got that money sitting in some type of fund, like a savings account, and God forbid you have some type of an emergency occur in your life, you're going to have to draw that money. You're going to have to draw money from somewhere, and guess where that money's coming from? It's going to come from that money that's waiting there to pay off the RV every month at 0%, where you probably should have just paid for it at the beginning. Again, to me, it doesn't make sense. It's very risky, and there's no upside whatsoever, other than you can see a pile of cash sitting in a savings account or under your mattress somewhere for 5 years. And to me, that's not an upside at all. That's not an advantage. That's not making money for you. It's not helping your life. It's only adding risk to the situation. So it's a great question. Again, I really do appreciate it. My feeling is only buy what you can afford to pay cash for. Pay cash for it and get it over with. And plus, I'll tell you one more thing. If they're offering 0% interest for 60 months, that's costing them money somewhere. It's math. It has to be. They're just not giving that away for free. They're building that money in somewhere because they have to then use that money for 60 months until they're paid for. So I still think that there is room for negotiation. If you say, I'm just going to pay cash for this and not utilize your financing, I think there's still room for more negotiation downward in that purchase price. That's my opinion. Hope you liked today. By the way, thank you so much for asking these questions, guys. I really appreciate it. And gals, we get a lot of questions from guys and gals, not meaning to be sexist in any way. You know I'm not. I can't always get to every question, whether it's on a video or even responding by print, by text in the comments. It's not always possible, but I try my best to hang in there and help you in any way I can. Dr. Dave, the RV Dummy, thanks so much for being with me, and I'll see you next time for sure. Love you.